Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 19 of the Glory Days podcast. We are back here live, and you know what? We had 1 week where, we were here live, happy with a good result, and I'll be honest, I want to go back there because we are coming from you with another episode following another shockingly bad loss. This time, our second loss of the season to Macarthur. To be fair, only half as bad as our last loss to them, but pretty bad nonetheless.
We didn't score though.
3-0 loss at home, another demolition job, and James, kick us off.
First of all, Happy New Year to all our viewers. Hopefully 2025 won't be as shit as 2024 in the sense of the A-League, because I think from memory, do you know how many total A-League games we won in 2024?
It was 2, wasn't it?
I think it's 4.
I think I was in the stats at home.
It's 4 or 5 games. I think it's 4 or 5 from memory.
Yeah.
So, I think someone did it. I think Neil Sherwin did a stat of like the total games we've had in 2024, and I think we've conceded something like 71 or 74 goals in a calendar year, which is ridiculous. So, the Macarthur game, in the sense of ending the year with a bit of, the standard shenanigans that we've been seeing for at least this season, was disappointing. There was a much better crowd for the game compared to the Newcastle one. I think people were going into the game definitely more positive off the back of the Brisbane win.
That was shown by the crowd figure as well.
Yeah, but it's just a shame that we're the ultimate tease, where we just show something for about 5 or 10 minutes and then we go, okay, that's it, show's over. And I think that was sort of reflected by the comments that we received leading into this episode. So we'll kick it off with James Merrin, who said, Newcastle Jets biggest away win against the Glory. Macarthur FC biggest away win against the Glory. Both at HBF and both this season. I've seen managers get sacked for worse. 0 goals scored at home, 14 conceded. We've been too easy on Zdrilic. Another loss and he'll lose the fans for good. Ewan, I thought the first half an hour was the best we have played all season, but as soon as Riley made the mistake, they just switched off and we went back to our usual self. P.S. Can we have a team of 11 Nicholas Penningtons? Peter Allen started well, and even at half-time thought we were showing signs of scoring, but every promising attack broke down due to lack of quality and confidence. Our wingers were honking, and as much as I like Ngo and Faisal, we desperately need some quality in the wide areas. Yeah. Gamulka is improving. Mm-hmm. Anthony, after that win streak we had, I thought we were going to be a lock for the title. Now I'm not so sure.
Anthony, I know you're listening to this.
Anthony, bro,
you're an idiot.
Win streak.
That's almost like a Stanism or something. Like we've just been on a massive win streak against Brisbane, and now we're going to beat Macarthur.
Our longest win streak of 2024.
Oh Jesus! January window enjoyer. Need a left back who can just do the basics properly, and another senior forward. Panic spreads too quick.
Oh God.
Michael, my humble view, owner has no money or doesn't want to spend. Try and gain some government support that adds value, be it admin training centre, and then sell. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense to buy and not invest for the longer term from the start. Or do they not know what they're doing? Finn, it's just depressing at this point. You have another decent crowd in at HBF Park despite recent results and a chance to prove you're not as shit as you have been, and the players play like that. It's just poor. Fingers crossed it's not the last time we see David Williams either. And then finally, Glory Productions. The first goal set the tone. Before, we were above average for about 10-ish minutes. Mm-hmm. Also heard one too many lower tapper fade memes from the kids behind me.
Oh.
Shaking my head.
You know what? That meme is still massive.
You know what else is massive? The Glory's fucking losing streak this year. It's going to be fucking huge because we're fucking shit and we can't do anything.
No, we're undefeated actually this year.
Shut up! Shut up, James!
It's just disappointing that. Look, I got there at least for the back end of the women's game, and I thought, look, they've been the shining light of this season so far because they've looked far more competent than the men's team. They can actually play football to an extent. They were unlucky to inherit the men's bozo gene for the goal that they conceded, because that was like a standard like Ollie Sale fuck up, if anything, with the goal that they conceded late on against the Mariners. And I was like, well, shit, if the girls are losing, and I think I might have said it in your vlog.
You said
that
in the match
it
day
set
vlog
the
that
precedent.
It set the precedent for the men's team.
And we didn't really change anything. So we may as well start with the changes that David made to the lineup.
Whoa, hold on. Before we start, I think it should be mentioned something cool that actually took place.
Oh, yeah.
Something enjoyable that actually took place.
Sorry, yes.
Me and Will did get invited down to do the pre-match. What was it called? Beat the Bell. The beat the Bell challenge, which was pretty much me and Will trying to volley a ball from our hands into a bucket.
I thought we were about to get kicked out.
I won that quite dominantly, actually. Well,
we have some vision.
It was literally like a half a second difference. Shut up.
We'll play.
And you blocked one of my shots.
We'll play the footage right here.
Cheater.
All right, so hopefully James has just edited in the footage there, and if he hasn't, then that's really awkward. But yeah, as you can see from the footage, I absolutely dominated with my football expertise. But it was quite a fun experience, and I was the winning recipient of a $100 Perth Glory gift voucher. Now, I want to do something fun with this voucher because I'm not too sure. I'm going to be getting my first ever proper Glory kit for this season. Now I'm going to get a player name on the back. I want the people in the comments to give me some suggestions on which player I should get on the back. I think we all know who I'm leaning towards, but I want to know from the viewers if I should A, pick an existing player, or B, wait until after the transfer window in January is done and then pick a player.
Just for shits and giggles, just do Castro.
I'm not doing Castro, bro. That's so...
Please don't tell me you think about doing Bodnar.
Anyways, Will, did you have many thoughts on the experience at all?
The game or the pre?
No. The game was an experience.
Getting Stone Cold Stunner in front of 2,000
I enjoyed it. Like, you know, at the end of the day, I've been going to these games since I was a little kid, and it was always my dream as a kid to be able to go on the field at some point and do something like that. So to finally get that opportunity, obviously now at the big age of 21 to do it, it's a bit different, but you know, it definitely felt like I was a little kid again walking out onto the field. Like, it was literally a dream come true for me. Like, I've always wanted to do something like that. So I really enjoyed it. It was cool.
Well, it was nice because I thought we were going to get kicked out because the lady, she beelined straight for us, and I was like, uh-oh.
I'm there waiting for a Luke Bodnar photo, and then this lady in a suit just comes beelining towards us for a crowd of people. I'm like, oh shit.
Like,
oh no.
She's like, get out.
Oh no.
Get out.
Big Ross Pelligra's finally caught on.
He's had enough of it.
He's had us removed out back.
Get those three boys out.
I said this to Will as we were walking through, by the way.
It's
I
a
said,
trap.
Oh, this is just a trap. They're taking us out back to be shot.
Yeah. But they've kept James alive. James is the only one that he likes.
He's a valuable asset from the Far Post Perth.
Rossi isn't a fan of the podcast, clearly.
Well, maybe.
So we may as well crack on into the game. So, round 10, Perth Glory 0, Macarthur Bulls 3. Not as devastating as the round 1 clash against Macarthur, where we got absolutely destroyed, 6-1.
A lot of similarities, though.
Yeah, there were, but David made 2 changes, and I think we mentioned it also in your video, Alex, that it was essentially the lineup that we thought we were going to see, or we wanted to see, where Taggart came in, and Quiet and Go came in. Both Bulgaria and Faisal dropped out to the bench, and I think fans had been calling for some time to see the partnership of David Williams and Adam Taggart up front. I mean, we saw it at times last season where it really looked quite exciting at times, and I think given the fact that we'd been so poor from an attacking perspective, the fact that we had both Williams and Taggart up front, I think you could see the improved dynamics almost straight away with how we attacked and especially how we pressed as well.
I think David just gives Tags so much more freedom when they play as a pair. Like, you can see Tags, he still works, but he doesn't have that sort of soul pressure of having to sort of just kickstart the entire press by himself. David's a gun, man. He runs for, he'd run for, but 2 hours straight if he could, let alone an hour and a half. But that opening 15 minutes, it was high pressure on the Macarthur back line. David was moving all sorts. He was doing really well. He was linking up really well. They were creating chances. Tags looked good. The movement was really good. And then the 15th minute came around, and then shock horror, David Williams with a potentially serious knee injury. Oh, God.
Well, before we discuss the injury, Will, what did you make of the start of the first 15 minutes? Because it was definitely an improvement from what we have seen, at home especially.
I said this, I don't know if I said this to both of you. I know I definitely said it to you, James. I think when we got to halftime, my thoughts on the first 15 minutes were that I caught myself at halftime believing in the first 15 minutes that we could win. And, you know, when we were saying about how Perth can be like the biggest tease of a club, that's what they did to me, right? That first 10, 15 minutes before Willow got injured, I hope he gets better soon, we were attacking. There was a lot of good link-up play from, you know, moving back to forwards. Pennington was really involved. The fullbacks, like Risdon especially, was making really good runs, getting some good balls in. And it just felt like this is exactly what you wanted to see, that first 10, 15 minutes. This is what we've been waiting for, that kind of that build-up. The one that Zdrilic's always talking about, that we need to straight from defence to attack with all the runs and all the press and all that stuff, right? And then all it takes is one player to go down, and that's all you get. Like, that's probably the only part of the game where we looked good.
Yeah, because I think we made the comment amongst ourselves as well that for as much as we had bashed on about the press being shit, it was definitely far better coordinated in the first 10, 15 minutes. And I think, and I said it in your video as well, Alex, I was saying, it's not so much formation, it's just the attitude was clear in that everyone was hunting after the ball and they all went together rather than just Tags by himself going to press and
begging other people to do it.
And literally going, guys, please. And
yeah.
It was just it was much more in unison, and it was just shit luck for us that Dave, unfortunately, well, the way in which his knee bent in that action. We spoke to one of the staff members after the game, and it's not looking good. We have to be honest. When Dave's a tough cookie, but to see him in pain like he was after the injury and the fact that he couldn't even move and needed to be stretchered off, I think we could all tell it was a very serious injury.
Yeah.
And as much as I'd love to see him come back this season, given the way in which his knee buckled at his age, I hope I'm wrong, but I doubt we see him back for the rest of the season.
Look, I did quite extensive study of human biology for ATAR in university, but it doesn't take a genius or a student to know that a knee is not supposed to bend that way.
No.
Yeah, of course.
And look, as much as I've talked before about how David Williams is an absolute phenom of a human, how he has the body of a 23-year-old at his age, and how his physical conditioning is, you know, better than most young footballers I've seen. To be honest, most footballers in their prime, it's not a good sign at all. Like, I really, really hate to say it. I really, really do. And I don't want to, you know, be that guy that's going to make any assumptions or anything. I'm really, really hoping that Dave's going to be back. It won't be this season. I'm sure it won't be this season because a serious knee injury like that takes time. But with any luck, we may see David Williams again on a football pitch. But I don't know if it's going to be this season. I don't know if it's going to be professionally for the Perth Glory. But I think just in case it is the last time that we do see him in a Glory shirt, I think it's right that we all take this opportunity to say thanks to David for all that he's done. He's been absolutely incredible. And look, I think after that first 15 minutes when he went down, the absolute just tone shift just tells how much he was sort of holding that sort of press together.
Yeah.
Genuinely the first time this season where I can say that we've actually sort of pressed as a unit, and probably the first time where the press has genuinely looked effective this season.
But it's no surprise, though, because in the pre-season, especially in the Australia Cup, when Dave Williams was starting, our press looked so much better coordinated. And yes, it's pre-season, so you can't really say, oh yeah, well that means you're going to automatically play well in the league. But it was very clear in pre-season the way in which David is as a leader, and this isn't a dig on Tags, it's just different players and different styles. We definitely seen more, again, like I mentioned earlier, in unison, and we were together and the press worked how it should. But you could literally feel among the stadium once the injury happened, the shed and the bay were buoyant. Everyone in the stadium was alive almost and going, wow, we're actually looking to build something. But now it's like, fuck. And then Macarthur, I think we're just waiting for that one moment, because I've sort of been critical of the Glory players, at least, because it seems like we need the perfect conditions to play well, where it be no injuries, no early goals, or everything to go right for us in order to have a chance of winning. And losing such a key player like David so early on in the game, I think really killed our momentum, and I think from there Macarthur really took control.
I do like the point that you made on David's leadership as well. And once again, no knock to Tags, but I feel like Tags sort of provides that level of, I guess, level-headedness that really, really helps the team when we're, ahead and looking to, grind out a result. We saw it plenty of times at HBF Park last season when he was sort of dragging Kolakovsky through games with the press and how he was firing up the crowd and everything like that. But David has been such a important figure at the club for when we've been in the struggles these past couple of years. Macedonia Park, always pressing, firing up the crowd, important goals and important moments. This season as well, especially against Brisbane, that goal last week that got us our first win. And aside from that, he was pretty much, the main player when it came to initiating a press, trying to create from out wide. His movement was great. It just feels like David and his energy was, if we were going to get a result from that game, it needed to come from him. And I feel like we were about to get something really, really good going. And then it just, at the worst possible time, the injuries hit.
Yeah, I think there's another side of it too with that press about leadership. I think a big thing when it comes to, especially having a young team, you want to do the right thing by your leaders, especially if you're a young kid. And I think Williams is definitely one of those players, no matter what team he's on. If you're a young player looking to, make your way and learn and understand what it's like to be professional, you don't want to disappoint Willow.
No.
You want to make Willow like you and want to say good job to you because you've done a good job. So, that might be the difference between him and Tags in terms of their leadership, is that perhaps because Willow's got such a... I would say Taggart obviously got a more decorated career in terms of, his ability and the talent, but Willow is just the renowned...
There's different styles of leadership.
Exactly, yeah. And Willow is one of those guys in football where you don't want to upset him because he won't be angry at you; he'll be disappointed. Yeah. And as a young player, you don't want one of your leaders to be disappointed in you. No. So that's kind of how it felt. The youngsters would see him yelling, "Press, press, press," and they wouldn't even think about it. Go for it. And and we later on when you have, again, this needs to happen every game. You got Tags with that, maybe 10 minutes left in the game. Got Nat Blair on, and he's just not pressing.
All the young kids, I think.
And Tags is just going, come on.
They're
just not.
There was literally a moment in the second half, I know we're jumping ahead a little bit, where you could literally see Taggart gesturing to the attacking midfielders behind him just to go, hey, come on, we've got to go. And then everyone's like, no, fuck that.
Yeah, I know this is completely off topic as well, but I just want to say it while we're still on the topic of David Williams. He's such a good guy, man. Oh my God. All the work he's done at the club, how he treats the fans, he's always the first.
Even his work for Indigenous footballers as well.
He's always the first to go over and talk to the fans, talk about the games and stuff. He'll be there 20-30 minutes after a game is done, still signing autographs, taking photos, talking to people. Oh man. One thing, not the last Unite round, but the first Unite round, I mean. All the players went, they took a photo with the fans, they left. Willow came over for genuinely about 20 minutes, and he went across the entire line of Perth Glory travelling supporters and spoke to every single person, and he was going in there and speaking to people from other clubs as well.
Yeah, I think just to end on that, there is a reason why when the players get their names announced at HBF Park, he gets one of the biggest cheers 100%. By all the fans. So that's where basically things went to shit. The first goal from Macarthur, Jed Drew. Macarthur, they basically showed next to nothing throughout the first 15 or so minutes. Yep. And they showed just how ruthless they were in round one in this game, where it was a counter-attack. It was some good work, I think, we had a quick free kick, went to Osler. He cut it back to the edge of the box to Bulgaria, and then bang. Macarthur had some good preconditions already because we probably weren't set for the counter-attack and we didn't make it work. And then it was obviously a hopeful long ball over the top by Maran Yakalish. But look, there was obviously a fair amount of criticism towards Riley Wallen. And for me, if you're going to make that sort of intervention where you've got no support behind you, he was the last line in defence, you've got to get it spot on. It's to stretch like that when you've got a player like Jed Drew who has the wheels that he does. Yep. For me, it was a big gamble, and he got it wrong. And from there, you can't really criticise Cam Cook for not saving the one-on-one because, as we discussed in a
previous pod,
episode, goalkeepers don't really tend to save one-on-ones. Even the best don't tend to save one-on-ones. So it was a real sort of reflective moment for us, where it's like you can have a bit of momentum, but these really good teams like Macarthur, they just need one chance, and they were ruthless. So what do you think of how they scored their first goal?
Look, I'm sure we'll mention it a few times, but Adam Bagaria especially, he's a young player. He's gonna learn. He was off against Macarthur. His passing wasn't that great. In terms of attack, he genuinely wasn't that bad. He was getting some nice link-up play. He was playing some good passes. But it was just in that sort of midfield transition where he was sort of sitting a bit deeper, maybe just in line with Pennington. He just looked a bit lost out there. He took too long on the ball. He was playing passes that were maybe a bit nonsensical. He was just too slow to react. And look, realistically, that's what led to the first goal, was that interception, the ball over the top. Riley Wallen caught out. And look, we can have that discussion, and we did have that discussion of whether we thought that someone with a bit more pace would have been able to intervene there, whether if we had Hamzawi there, if we had Doggy Carluccio there.
I don't think it's I think it's just the decision making. I think if you the positioning and the choice to go for that action to deal with that long ball was very risky.
But here's the thing, is that a certain attributes of a player will contribute to their decision making. I'm sure Riley has made that decision with the full idea in mind that he's probably not going to be quick enough to keep up with Jed Drew in a foot race there, which is why he's tried to intervene as early as possible.
Yeah.
But with someone faster and maybe a bit sort of more agile like Doggy Carluccio or maybe Anas Hamzawi, I genuinely think that they wouldn't have even bothered going to ground in that situation, because they would have known that they would be able to keep up with Jed Drew in a foot race, at least if Drew was on the ball trying to run towards
I don't think there's many fullbacks in the league that
I don't think there
is
either. I just think that in that certain situation, and I'm not saying out here that Riley Wallen's not a good left back, or I think someone's a better left back than the other. I just think that in that situation, it's just unfortunate that we've got one of our slower fullbacks in competition with Jed Drew, who is probably the fastest player in the A-League.
Yeah.
And look, I don't want to be that guy, but you do kind of have to look at David Zdrilic at that point and say, like, okay, well, is there a reason that we're putting Riley down that side with Jed Drew? Because, look, Riley was weird that game in the sense that his first effort every single time for a tackle, for a pass, for a header or everything, every single first effort he lost every single time, but he would always bust his ass to get down to the other end of the field to make like a beautiful saving tackle. And he did it like 3 or 4 times. So I have no doubt that Riley Wallen has that quality in him, that sort of ability, that hunger to want to chase down that ball, win that tackle, save his team. But you have to ask questions as to why is that first effort so poor, for one, and why is he being mismatched up against Jed Drew, who is one of the best one-on-one dribblers in the league and also one of the fastest players in the A-League.
Yeah, what do you think?
I just think it's just down to inexperience and poor decision making. Like we said in one of our last, again, I guess I know he's had some game experience recently, but again, he was out of action for quite a while. So we obviously can't keep making that excuse for him, but it comes with the territory, I think, of having a young team where they're going to make rookie errors, they're going to make mistakes, they're going to do things that make you scratch your head and go, why do you think that was the right choice? You know, I think going to ground when you're the last man is one of the last things you should do. I understand if you don't think you should try and catch him because you don't think you'd be able to, but I still totally believe you just got to try, because you literally have to get that perfect, like you said.
Yeah.
Like you have to get that perfect.
To be fair, in hindsight, it's easy for us to say that, because if he does make that tackle, we're like, oh, holy shit, what a play.
That's a great intervention.
But in hindsight, it is sort of easy to say, oh, well, he shouldn't have done
and
that.
we're not out
but
there trying to figure out what to do either.
At the same time, we've watched football for
about
a decade and a half.
We've seen enough.
We've seen enough to know that more often than not, that probably doesn't come off the way that the defender intends. And look, let's not forget Riley's only 21 years old. He's got well over a decade left in his career.
Yep.
But it's those sort of like common sense errors that we've been struggling with all season. And that might be because we have a young squad, but we've seen senior players doing that shit as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if questions are asked.
Well, it was worse for the second goal. The second goal, okay, the first one, the first one I can somewhat forgive because he's tried to go for the intervention.
Yep.
The second one, though, I'm not going to have a go just at him. I'm going to have a go at Kwa and Tommy. because even still, I think it was like a 5-on-2 or a 7-on-2 at one point. Yet Macarthur were able to make it work. It was the looping switch from Villegerman and a bit of a chaos ball. And at that point, Ngo was trying to shield it, but Riley coming over, it's like, well, just boot it.
Yeah.
Just boot it. Just get it out. And that all started from Adam Bulgaria giving possession away. And we knew that, obviously, having played Macarthur in the first round, they were always trying to get in behind. They've got so much speed, and especially in transition, they're a very, very tough team to catch.
Yeah.
And when you're careless in possession, and if your rest defence isn't set up in the best way to stop that transition, then good teams like Macarthur will punish you. And then it's like simple defensive errors where it's like, it shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening at this level. It's been happening too many times. And fair play to Keely Adamson, who managed to force the intervention, deflected off him to go to Jed Drew. And credit Jed Drew. I thought it was a good finish from a tight angle. And Macarthur, who hadn't really done all that much, were probably, deserved to be at that point 2-0 up.
100%.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to put too much on Kwa there because I feel like he did do some good work there with the shielding of the ball. My main problem does, once again, and I'm not doing this to be a prick or to pick on one person specifically over and over again, but Riley Warland, man. I know it's easy for us to say just clear the ball, and you know what? I just think that he went through two thoughts in his mind. The first thought to clear the ball, and the next thought was, no, actually, hold on, we'll try and keep possession here. Yeah. He tried to scoop it with his right, scooped it straight into Jed Drew, deflected, and
into Adamson.
Oh, sorry, into Adamson, then went to Drew, and then he got the shot off.
I just think, again, it's the young thing, which is why I'm really trying to just not, have any major issues here, because I think when because we're all the same age as him, right? Like,
he's a bit older. I think he's about 23.
Oh, he's 23?
He's 22,
Riley
23.
Warren?
Yeah,
he's 21.
No, he's a bit older, mate.
I'm double checking.
I'm convinced he's a bit older.
He's early 20s regardless.
Yeah.
And look, as someone who obviously nowhere near the professional level he plays, who grew up just playing, high school sport. And
yeah, we
like
suck
that.
at football.
Yeah.
Forgive me, he's 22.
Okay. It's very, very easy for young players to make one fairly large mistake, and then that completely shakes their confidence for the rest of the game, and they're unable to shake that until the final whistle. And it did look a little bit like that when we were talking about that first effort. It looked like he was caught in two minds. But then once that first effort was done and he knew he'd either done the wrong thing or he'd lost the battle, all that confidence just went straight out the window, and he just went right back and just nothing in his mind other than, I'm winning this ball back. And that was great. But it did look a bit like he'd lost a lot of that confidence after that, because when that first goal went in, I looked at him as soon as that ball went back of the net, and he literally just leant over, hands in his.
He looked
face.
so deflated.
He just looked so upset.
He looked in particular deflated when he came off, and we could see on the bench that he just looked shattered.
Yep.
But I do want to.
I felt so bad for him, man.
Yeah, it's shit, because you don't want to see players go through the mistakes that they do, especially when we're in such a difficult moment. But I think this does have to be brought up, and we'll. Don't look at it, but I know how you love your raw take on stats.
Okay.
I'll credit Ben Smith on this because he brought it up.
Okay.
So we've conceded 2 goals in 6 minutes on seven different occasions in just 10 games this season. So, Dave, it's been a problem. It's been a problem now for a fair bit, because we've had so many.
That's so bad.
We've had so many of those like bang bang moments with the goals that we concede. And I know we do have a bit of a young team, but we don't have that resilience or that character or that ability to just move on and go again. And obviously we're not professionals. We've not been involved in an elite environment, so it's hard for us to really gauge and comment on what it's like to develop a mentality from top to bottom. But absolutely. I think what's clear is that the collective mental strength amongst the group on the pitch, at least, this is going back to my initial point about, we need the perfect conditions for us to succeed. I just felt, when one goal goes in, you generally go, oh shit. And I think there was the stat from Paramount at half-time that every time we've gone into half-time losing, we haven't won a game this season. So Like,
We've only won one, so
well, yeah, obviously, but we didn't. Not even a draw. Not even a draw.
Right.
So this is the thing. It's like we need to find a way at some point to build that resilience, that character, that ability to not lose focus.
that must be so hard because, look, as fans, we're obviously frustrated, we're upset, we're annoyed that, you know, we watch this team play every week and you're almost expecting, you know, how many goals we're going to lose by this time. You know, it's more like a guessing game at that point. But if we're feeling this way and we're frustrated, I can only imagine how much more difficult it is for the actual players in the field who are physically on that field conceding that many goals, especially for players like Cammy Cook, who probably must feel so stranded sometimes when he's facing so many one-on-ones. Well, it must be so hard to build that resilience, like with such a young core as well.
He looked so frustrated as well, man, and I completely get it. Like, there was so many occasions where he was just, like, even not after conceding goals, just yelling at the players, trying to pick them up, and it's just everyone looked just so defeated after that Williams
injury. I think one of the big things as well about the lack of confidence, I think there was a relationship between, like, if the overall morale, especially in elite sports, is low, then you can... You know when you get heavy legs because you've got that lack of confidence and you just make those mistakes.
The adrenaline's gone. The confidence
everything is gone. I think that's really clear with us because you could see we had that spring in our step for the first 15 or so minutes, and then a difficult moment hits us, and then it's like we can't get out of that.
That first goal.
And then this time it didn't spiral out of control like it has done in previous games, but it was enough for Macarthur to cash in and come away from the game with a pretty convincing win. I think at halftime, the XG from us was somewhat okay, but that was boosted mostly by David Williams' effort, which was the one that led to his injury. So we may as well discuss the third goal. And I think it's a similar point that we were talking about before about the lack of confidence, where you've got Bulgaria receiving. I don't know what was going through his head, but he must have been thinking, I could probably try to take on a couple of the boys there, or maybe I need to maintain possession. But he gave the ball away in a dangerous position. And then from there, Macarthur was just ruthless. And credit to Ariath Piol, had a good starting position. I think it was Jakalic again with the assist. Slipped him through, and then he knocked it through Cammy Cook's legs. Yeah, great finish, but that just shows the difference in quality between the two teams.
I know I ask this question every week, and most of the time I get laughed at because it's a pretty obvious answer, but does anyone have any positives at all? Because I just feel like we should start the new year off with some sort of positive vibes.
Yes.
Right, Will, let's go. And not about the cheerleading performance at halftime, because it was good and the pyro was fun.
We found the extra Apple Wallet thing to...
We did.
I think this is one of the first games this season where you can look back at least two of the goals and say this wasn't because of this wasn't a tactics problem. It was pure individual errors. Because
all three probably could be.
You could argue all three were. And obviously, the only way you concede a goal in football is by making a mistake, because no one deliberately lets another team score, right? No. So, but in this specific instance, I would say, all three of them came from individual mind lapses and errors, and a lot of the time, we have not been able to say that, because a lot of the time it's just because we got carved up and there's nothing the defense could have done. When this time it was... Actually, we could have just cleared it, but we tried to be too fancy, or we missed a tackle, and that was it.
Yeah.
If we had our time again, I think we would have been different with how we dealt with those situations.
Yeah, I completely agree. So that's a positive, that at least, if you can take any positive from 3-0, at least the goals you conceded weren't because you got outclassed tactically. It was just because of individual errors, which is going to happen with a young team. Yeah. That's always going to happen.
I would also like to say, I feel like a number of our younger players are sort of starting to get into it a bit more, which is good. Zach Zdrilic, we saw him back in the squad for the first time. I actually thought he looked pretty all right, even though he was playing at left back.
I've got a positive. Labib,
yeah, but he's a positive.
Labib, in his first starting debut at home, I thought some of his interventions were excellent. I loved his tackle in the first half where he got a yellow card for it, which was bullshit.
Huge shout out to Tommy Merchler as well, because you can tell the effect he's having on him.
But Tommy backed him up. He didn't, like, sometimes we've criticised the boys not backing each other up, but Tommy immediately backed up and told Braden, "Oi, fuck off, lad, he's mine." Like, he's my centre back partner, and you can see that they're creating that relationship. And I'm like, don't change the centre back partnership.
Yep.
No.
That's the, unless we
is the partnership.
unless we get a crazy good centre back in January.
Yeah.
Don't change it.
And like we heard with the comments as well, I thought Gamulka is starting to slowly...
He did.
Starting to slowly get better.
Yeah.
Pennington, once again, looked really good.
Good nutmeg from Gamulka early on as well. You could, and that's the thing. You could see the difference between when the team was up versus when the team is in the shit.
Faisal, I also think, was working a bit harder, which I like to see.
There
were some problems, obviously, with his attacking, the 5v2 in particular that we didn't convert, but I thought he was working a bit harder off the ball.
Yeah, obviously he's young and he's wanting to try and impress, and it's like, I think just for the young guys in general, and look, we're not experts at all, but it's like, probably just at this point, just do the simple things.
Yeah.
Pass and move. Don't worry about.
It's easy for us to say.
Well, I know it's easy. I know it's easy for us to say, but it's like sometimes I feel like we're trying to overdo it and just do too much. And it's like, again, we're not pros. We're not in that environment. But it's like, what difference could that make if we just dropped it down a bit, did the simple things better? Because we sort of have been criticising for basically since round one that we haven't done the basics well enough. And as a starting point, if we get them right, well, who knows? Maybe we might actually start finding a way to not just be more competitive, but maybe win more games.
I also thought Rizzo played really well. He I think he did.
Yeah,
he did
He
his
always
job.
does, man.
He worked his job to perfection. I can't pin any of the goals on him. I think he was running right to the very end until he just had nothing left, which is very much Josh Risdon-like. So I would say, for me, probably best on ground for him. Because he never stopped going, and he did exactly what he was told to do, and that you can't ask more of that from a right back. So,
we may as well get into a possibly touchy subject. We've got 4 games until the bye.
Yep.
So we've got Western United at home on Friday. We've got Sydney FC away, Auckland at home, and then Western Sydney Wanderers at home.
Okay.
Are we at a point where it's like, how long do you give David Zdrilic? Or is it a case of, well, maybe let's just focus on using this season as, I hate to say it, but almost as a write-off to try and develop the young guys and try to develop the style of play moving forward? Where do you guys sit on that?
Look, I did say this at the start of the season, that I would be happy to have another year where we didn't make finals, as long as we were getting a younger squad that we could set up to push for the next 3-4 years, so that we could actually push for an A-League final, push for Asia, push for stuff like that. And as long as there was significant investment made in our facilities and other stuff like that, to have us at a consistent point where we can build a sort of dynasty where we're going for the next decade and we're constantly at the top. I'm not seeing it right now, but I'm at that point where I'm happy to just say, look, I think it would just cause less problems and less headaches if we just give Zdrilic till the end of the season. And that might be uncomfortable for a lot of Glory fans to think about, because obviously we're not playing very well. We've only won 1 game against Brisbane. We're not going to make finals this year, and the squad seems to be struggling. But we have a young core. And we know this for a fact now, that a number of our main transfer targets that Zdrilic really wanted were not,
it wasn't possible given the way in which the certain issues in the club were.
So look, Zdrilic has had a bit of a hard situation, and to be fair, I think Stan and Ross have had equally hard, if not more difficult situations as well.
I don't think they probably, maybe they did, but I don't think they probably did realise just how big the rebuild was actually going to be.
Look, I'm more of the belief that I don't think sacking Zdrilic right now is the answer, and my main reason for that is because if you are going to look to bring in an Aussie coach, who do you bring in? We've had some talks about a few people that you might want to mention after I finish my point, but look, unless you can seriously get in a manager who you know for a fact is going to, 1, stick around long term, and 2, instill a proper style of sustainable long-term football in this club that's going to be able to see us get back to the top, then there's no point changing anything right now. Because if we're about to sack David Zdrilic just to bring in Ross Aloisi or Mark Milligan
I wouldn't
or
be happy with
something
that.
like that,
No.
it's another sideways step. I don't want to see that shit. I'd rather just stick with Dave, show some confidence, get him the signings he needs, bring in some more experienced people in January, and keep this good flow of youngsters that we have coming through so that we have something to build on. these youngsters to a point where they can perform consistently for the starting 11. It creates a positive cash flow for the club. It entices fans to come and watch these younger players getting their opportunities and stuff. One of my favorite things this season, and trust me, there's not a lot of good things about this season, but one of my favorite things is that I can genuinely come to a Glory game at any time and I can watch 3-4 players that I genuinely think will have fantastic careers long term starting for my club, and it's really exciting. So I do want to see more of that, and I'm appreciative of the fact that we have at least invested in youth going forward, and I'm appreciative of the fact that we're starting to invest in facilities more, which is really good. The rebuild's going to take ages because, to put it nicely, Sage left us in a really shit situation financially, and it's going to take a few years at least to be able to get back up to the points where we wanted to get to. So look, I think Ross and Stan jumped the gun a bit, saying that we wouldn't recognise the club in 12 months' time. I'm going to say that we're not going to be sort of at the top where we want to be until at least 2027. But I do think that with some strong transfer windows and with us. Look, I think we can do this with Dave. I still believe we can do this with Dave. If Dave and his culture are fully bought into by the playing group and by the management group and by the ownership group, and with some strong financial backing, I still think we can do this. I'm holding out hope, mostly because of the fact that I can't see any manager right now that would, take the risk of coming here and taking on this job. But we're in a shit financial situation. We're in a shit football situation. Let's just ride it out and see what happens, because we've got pretty much nothing else.
Well,
Tick tock. I already said in a few podcasts ago that I would not say anything negative about Mr. Ross until we reach mid-February, because that's when he promised things would be different. And obviously I'm not stupid, and things won't be perfect come mid-February. So either...
No, bro, 2025, new year, new us.
So either he admits it and he says sorry, or he says nothing, and then I get really angry. So my opinion on Zdrilic is, do I think he is what the club needs right now? No. Do I think he could be good in a long-term project if he's actually committed and we start giving him the players he wants? Yes. But I don't see a world where if Ross... It depends what Ross's vision is. If he wants the club to be like, let's... this season's a write-off, but hey, next season, let's do it. Then, nah. Zdrilic's not your guy. Because I think it's going to take a few years of Zdrilic being in charge and a few years of building the team he wants with the right tactics and the right facilities and blah, 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 blah. That's what it's going to take for Zdrilic to be the right man for the job. But I think if Ross is very much like, hey, well, I don't want to wait until 2027, as much as I'm like, okay, maybe you have to, but if he's very much just wanting to say, screw this, let's just buy a bunch of really experienced and good players and forget about the youth, because that didn't work this year. The whole Mariners thing just didn't work. Then I don't think Zdrilic's your guy. And obviously you have a few people in mind that if Zdrilic was to go, that you might want to see come in. But I would much rather Zdrilic stays than he goes and we get the Mark Milligans or Ross Aloisis, because it's literally just replacing... I'm not going to say that, but it's not going to help anything. Sure, we might get 1 or 2 wins off the new manager bounce, because that's a thing. But look, Zdrilic, I will say this, Zdrilic is not that bad of a manager to the point where these are the results we should be expecting if he's in charge all the time. I don't think these results are going to be a permanent thing just because of him. I think this is a collective thing with how just shit the club has been left in, like with Sage. This was always going to happen. I don't think, no matter who bought us, I think this was always going to happen. Whether or not we had Dave or, Graham Arnold in charge of the team, I just don't think there's a way where we were ever going to be as good as we thought we would be. Looking back at it now. But look, again, I think for now we keep Dave unless we have a glaringly obvious candidate to take over. We keep Dave for now, because there's no real point getting rid of him just to do what? Just because to make the fans happy, even though it probably won't make it away, because we'll still lose with or without him. But yeah, I think keep him, but Ross, TikTok buddy, still waiting.
It's a hard one because, as all you boys know, I was very excited when David Zdrilic was... There was speculation about him coming into the club around about May, June of last year. There's no doubt that this was going to be a big gamble on the
Yes.
behalf of the Pelligra Group, given that they saw fit to part ways with Alan Stajic, who is currently doing quite well with the Western Sydney Wanderers.
Yep.
It was a big call. There's no doubt about it. But like with any new ownership group, they deserve the chance to give their people a chance to enact their vision. They deserve a chance to run the club in the way that they see fit.
Correct.
David came with a very prestigious background, having worked as a player and as a coach under Rangnick, while also collaborating with the likes of Nagelsmann and Hasenhüttl, and possibly even Jesse Marsch, given that Marsch was involved at Leipzig during the time that David was there also. So the Red Bull identity was going to be something that we thought we were going to see with Zdrilic as our coach.
Yep.
Now, he's obviously veered away from that initial type of football, and we've gone into something else, which wasn't a bad move. But for me, the big question is, despite the hand at which you're given as a coach, the question in both the short and long term is, do you believe that your coach has the capacity to get results moving forward and implement their style of play while also getting results? I can't say that after a sample size of 10 games that I've been entirely convinced with what I've seen. I can very much understand the argument that David hasn't been given a good hand, and he hasn't. However, in saying that, for me, a big turning point in my support of David Zdrilic was when the Newcastle Jets, having just been called soft by their coach and having had 3, I believe, key senior players out injured, they rocked up to HBF Park, a very young team. We had quite an experienced side out there.
Yep.
Everyone thought we were going to win. Instead, they beat us 4-0. And these thrashings have been too much of a recurrence to the point where we've conceded, 27 this season? I think it's 27 in 10 games.
Yep.
So, for me, yes, you've got a young team, and yes, we need to make some signings in January. But that being said, and I don't speak for the panel, I'm just speaking on my behalf, for as much as I want it to work. He's got 4 games for me to show something tangible. Fair. Where we as fans can go, do you know what? We might not have won all the games, but there's something to build on. Because you can't use the excuse of young players being exposed to the league, because it's the situation in which they're in and there's nothing we can do about it. You've got to find a way to win. And again, with the Jets, how they dismantled us, yes, that was a freak example, but the thrashings have come from teams at both the top end of the ladder and the bottom end of the ladder.
Yep.
Just because we beat Brisbane, who are crap, just because we played good football for 15 minutes, for me is not enough of a compelling case for me to go, do you know what? Even if we give Dave more money in the upcoming window, that I'm going to be satisfied we're going to get to a point, at least this season, where we will be maybe out of the bottom 4.
Yeah.
Now, you obviously preempted before that I had some names. I only have one name if there is to be a change. A name that maybe not everyone would be familiar with. It's not Graham Arnold, as much as he would be ideal. It's a guy called John Brady. He was the Northampton Town head coach he coached about 200 games with them, I think. He resigned early last month. And for the last few weeks, I've been questioning Zdrilic, both in a short-term and long-term capacity, over whether he is the guy. He still very much could be, but I'm having pretty serious doubts at this point.
Yeah.
Brady, I've looked into. When he went into Northampton, and yes, League 1 and League 2 in the English football system, you can debate about whether it's the same or similar quality to the A-League. For me, probably only League 1 to an extent is probably similar in terms of quality.
Yeah.
But he walked into a team that was, he was told would never get a point. Basically, in League 1, they were in the shit. And what he did was, okay, they got relegated when he was the interim. But when they were in League 2, they narrowly just missed out on promotion due to a freak 7-0 result by Burton on the final day, where they won 7-0. Otherwise, they would have been promoted. It was just through goal difference that they didn't. And then the second season was where it was really quite impressive. He was able to get them promoted back to League 1 And this was despite having, on average, after Christmas, 10 to 11 players out injured. And also having, with his staff, his goalkeeping coach had his wife pass away suddenly. And his other assistant coach was in Scotland for about a month because his dad was pretty ill and passed away also. So the point is that he was able to continue to improve the team despite the face of adversity. And there's been a lot of commentary about the way in which John Brady is as a motivational coach. And I think we can all agree at some points during this season, we've said that Zdrilic hasn't been as active on the touchline. And yes, he's been a bit more active the last few weeks, but I think it's been something that's not maybe as natural, perhaps. It does seem like he maybe has been told, or he has seen some fan comments that have gone, hey, you need to be far more engaged and all that. So I might have shared the clip with you guys of how John was celebrating a win away against Lincoln when they were back in League One last season, where he was going full Jurgen Klopp. I don't think the Glory members and fans have had a proper connection with their coach for a long, long time. No. And when you speak with the older fans, the way in which they speak about Bernd Stunger, it's very clear that he had a very good relationship with the members and fans and the players also. And I don't think David, for as much as there has been goodwill and intent, has sold his vision or himself to the Perth community well enough to the point where even if the results are shit, people are going, do you know what? I like Dave. I like what he's trying to do. He's come across very well. He's just been a bit unfortunate with how things have gone. So to summarise, Brady as a coach as well, from a tactical perspective, is quite pragmatic but flexible. He's continuously improved Northampton up until the point where he resigned. Was always having to deal with quite a tough budget, a lot of injuries. So if there was to be a change, he would be someone that I would go for if there was to be a change. But in saying that, I know I've gone on a little bit of a rant here, but these next 4 games are massive for Dave.
100%.
For me. And I know that we've got, I think it was mentioned that we're going to have Hamzawi, O'Neill, and possibly Mila Jusnic back. Those are big inclusions. So that's essentially a fully fit squad, bar David Williams.
Yep.
So for me, there's no excuses. We need to see something. We need to see a really clear improvement in performance and in results. If we get, as a bare minimum, a win and a draw in our next 4 games, I'd be somewhat satisfied, along with an improvement in our style of play, all of which I think are achievable over our next 4 games. They're achievable goals. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how we approach these next 4 games. And I'm very much hoping that with it being a new year, we can have almost a redemption sort of year and we can actually see David's full vision. Otherwise, as unfortunate as it would be, then I think we might need to consider making a change if it gets to that point.
Yeah.
Professional yapper. Professional yapper.
We'll move on to one smaller point before we eventually get onto the Western United preview, and that would be the upcoming transfer window. Now, this is going to be something that we're probably going to be discussing on a weekly basis for the next month and a half until the window closes in mid-February. Yep. But some important updates have come out since our last episode where we were talking about Kanga and Caicedo leaving, and one of the main ones would be Doggy Carluccio's agent coming out on LinkedIn, putting out advertisements for Doggy Carluccio saying that they're looking for a new club overseas in Europe or Asia. Yep. Now, I am shitting myself, primarily because Doggy is off contract at the end of the year. And look, I'll be completely honest, I did expect him to move on at the end of the year. It's going to hurt, but I was expecting it. However, I wasn't expecting to lose him mid-season. If we don't get some money in return for this is going to be bad. I'm not going to like this at all. On top of this as well, a number of players have been missing from the squad while being fit. Lachlan Barr left out of the squad this week. Yep. Also, Hiroki Aoyama. There's some drama going down there.
Well, I think I wouldn't say drama, but I would say that it's likely that he might be leaving the club in the upcoming window.
Yes, I think that's quite likely as well. Hamzawi, despite being missing from the squad on a few occasions, he was spoken about by Zdrilic as sort of like a positive inclusion coming up to the...
He had a little tweak, I think, in his right leg for the last 3 weeks, but they were being very cautious, just not forcing him back in.
That's fair.
But he should be back against Western.
Yeah, so it looks like any sort of rumours of him leaving, maybe just hold the gun on those just for now. So it looks like he's still going to be with us at least until the end of the season. Yeah. But
the big
as far as we know now...
There's a big one, mate. Oh, Musti.
Ah, yes. Sorry, I was getting to that.
Yeah.
Look, obviously the big one, Musti Amini, mutual contact. Well, not
It was not mutual.
Sorry.
No.
Mutual at all.
A complete, immediate contract termination, and we're not going to discuss this too much.
We've got to be
for the
careful.
pure reason that there is a current ongoing legal investigation between the Australian Footballers Association.
Well, the PFA are basically alleging that, and Musti, that the contract termination was unlawful. And so I just hope that and then I'll let you comment, Will, that when the Glory did make the decision to terminate the contract, that they did so in the correct procedural and ethical manner so that we're not in the shit, because I can do without more drama.
Yeah.
I just want a bit more of a normal season if possible.
Look, we obviously actually have no idea.
Yeah, we don't have a clue.
So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you know what, you're wrong or this is how it's going to go. I've got no idea. All I know is that Musti hasn't been playing because he's had an injury, and there's lots of rumours about whether or not he was doing everything in his power to recover from said injury, whether that be even like attending games, stuff like that. There's lots of things being flown around. In reality, we don't know. But the last thing I want is, with the current turmoil the club is in, to not have a case against us from a player who got terminated. Because if we're trying to make even in the off season, if we're trying to make some free agent signings, we're trying to get some players to come over. If they're gonna look at how we treat our players, and if we've done Musti wrong here, and we've got a case going against us, what free agent player is going to say, actually, I want to go to Perth because that's how they treat their players? This is my biggest worry, is because if we have done the wrong thing, how is that going to affect us when it comes to us wanting to sign more players? Because we've already struggled to sign the players that we wanted to anyway. There's ones that Zdrilic was hoping to get. This isn't going to help. Having the PFA going at us is not going to help.
I think that's a good point, and to be honest, I think we should probably leave it at that before we get ourselves into more trouble.
We get a lawsuit ourselves.
Yeah. In terms of possible incomings as well, I think it's also important to mention that we did get notice on the members' emails for the Caicedo and Kanga departures, saying that they are hoping to announce replacement signings soon. I'm assuming that Tomislav Merchela would have been in some degree maybe a replacement for Kanga, though I don't think he was.
I don't think so.
So we should be expecting 2 more signings at least to come in soon as replacements for them. And then whether or not we're going to be getting in direct replacements for players like Aoyama, Carluccio if he does end up leaving, Musti Amini as well. And then there's several other players, including David Williams, who's now out injured long term. Whether or not we're getting replacements for these players before Jan 16th is going to be interesting.
Just as a quick one, would you guys go for Bruno?
I absolutely would.
100%.
Given now that David Williams is most likely out with a long-term knee injury.
There is no reason that we shouldn't.
I really like the look of
opinion.
Tags and Williams, and the closest thing you're going to get to Tags with an absolute just dog striker is going to be Bruno.
And I've said this from the moment he left, and we were trying to play a 1-striker formation, and we were asking for a 10. I have said this. Bruno can play as a 10.
I did say this as well.
He can. I'm not saying he should, but he definitely has that ability to. We saw the season where we had the injuries and he had to play as more of a playmaker when we lost Castro. His ability to play that pass and do the footwork to get into positions where he to play the pass is impeccable.
Oh, guys, he doesn't have Cam as an alternate
I-
position on FIFA, so he actually can't play in the 10.
I don't-
I just said,
Shut up, James.
Bring him back.
You're wrong.
I don't want him to play the 10. I'd much rather the Tags will. I'm
saying front two.
The Tags, the Tags Bruno up top. I'd much
Front
rather
two. Do
that.
that.
However, if we were going to bring him in to be like an alternating striker and then pushing down to a 10 with a formation change mid-game, if that's what we're going to do, I don't have any issues with that.
You're gonna hate me, right, James? But I could not think right now of. Well, I probably could, but I could imagine a really good mentor for Bulgaria would be Bruno Fornaroli. I would really like to see Bulgaria.
Okay, no,
mentored
that's a
under
bit
Bruno
far.
Fornaroli.
That's believable.
I would love to see it.
No.
I would love to see it.
But in terms of centre back replacements, I don't actually know who's out there on the market. That would
Degenek left his club
True.
in Serbia.
Rumored to be going to Western Sydney Wanderers.
Yeah.
But
Delbridge might have left his club in Korea.
Yeah.
Thomas
Welcome back
Thomas
on a 2-year
Dane.
deal.
That's interesting as well, though.
Mm.
Not only has Degenek left his club and is possibly going to be pushing for a Socceroos spot now that Harry Sutar is injured long-term alongside Kachati, Deng is also out there. And most rumours were saying that Deng would be heading towards Western Sydney Wanderers.
I think he'd go to Victory.
You reckon he goes to Victory?
He's not coming to us, is he?
No.
Well, I'm just gonna say, look, Victory have some solid defensive depth as it is, and if they do bring in Deng, they have to offload one more defender.
Well, imagine Miranda and Dang.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that Hamill's been their best defender by far this season. I don't see them dropping Hamill for Deng. And here's the thing, I don't see them dropping Guerrier for Deng either. I don't see that.
Yeah.
And they've already got Josh Risden there.
What?
Not Josh Risden, sorry.
What are you on about? Rawlins?
Sorry, Josh Rawlins. They've already got Josh Rawlins there they've already got Josh Rawlins there as depth, so I don't really see from their perspective what the use of signing Thomas Deng would be unless it's on a very cheap contract.
Shits and giggles because I can do it.
He'd probably go to Sydney. Sydney need a better defence.
Look, honestly, I could see Sydney. I could see Sydney more than I could see Western Sydney at this stage if they do go for Degenek. Look, Degenek probably does end up at Western Sydney Wanderers if we're honest. I would love Thomas Degenek. Fucking hell.
Mate, you are
Milos Degenek. Just stop.
You're the one doing it.
I would love Milos Degenek or Thomas Deng at the Glory. I doubt we get
Delbridge.
Or Delbridge. I would love Delbridge at the Glory, but whether we actually get them remains to be seen. Joshua Laws is another option.
Uncle Ross, open up the checkbook.
Uncle Ross, please.
Please, bro. Put the money in.
Look, put the money in the bag. No, but there's plenty of other signings we need to make. Look, a Musti Amini replacement, if there is one out there, would be nice. A David Williams replacement is needed.
Bruno.
Daniel
Sturridge.
Shut the fuck up.
And look, if we are going to be offloading other visa signings, we do need the replacements for those in as well. So, look, as far as I'm concerned, we need a replacement 10, a replacement striker, a replacement centre-back, a starting winger, as well as a new CDM.
Well,
that's at least, at minimum, 5 players that we absolutely need to be going in for.
I don't think we'll make 5. We might make 3, but let's see how we go. But turning our attention now to West United. This could be a bit of an interesting clash.
Well, hey.
They've knocked off the likes of Sydney FC and Auckland away from home.
Convincingly against Auckland as well.
Convincingly. And they didn't look too crash hot against Brisbane. They had a bit of a dubious penalty, which got them over the line. So I think for us, for as much as they did knock off the likes of Sydney and Auckland, we've got to be going into this game, especially if we get some good inclusions.
Yeah.
Going for 3 points. We've got to... look, I'll even take scoring a goal at home, given we haven't done that this season. But this is a game...
The standards are on the floor.
This is a game where... guys, please, you can do it.
It's like... home games for the Glory right now. You can replace PGFC with Perth Glory with fucking parental guidance FC. Bring your kids, but make sure you supervise them because it's going to be bloody awful.
We play like we're under 13.
Bloodbath.
But it's like literally like shut up. Like,
guys,
your discretion is advised because you're going to see some really, really messy shit.
Hey guys, POV Noah Botic in the 35th minute when he makes it 5-0.
Nice. Like, genuinely,
Really seeing it.
it's bad, man. And I don't want to start this tangent because we do this every podcast, but
Let's be positive.
no.
What's our score prediction? Because we've been getting lots of praise for our score
Should I
predictions.
spin the wheel?
Yeah, go on. What do
All
you,
right, so
You know what? Hold on.
should I spin
Alex,
the wheel? Random number generator.
Go ahead.
all right, Will, you go with your prediction. What's the score going to be?
3-1 Western. I think we score, but that's about it.
Fuck it. New year, new glory.
Oh,
2-1
shut
2-1
up.
glory.
No.
2-1 glory.
And if we do, that's great. But I did this last time against Macarthur. I said, she knows we're going to win 2-1.
Yeah, but if you do it enough, they're eventually going to do it.
No, they won't.
All right, Football Scores 201 tells me that Perth Glory will win 3-0. And with that, lads, we're going to end off episode 19 of
Oh,
the
no,
Glory
hold
Days.
on. There's one point that we will mention. Good to see that the Glory FRG and the Shed End have done separate statements wanting to meet with the owners. Obviously, myself and a few others met Ross, Jason Bontempo and Stan Lazaridis a few weeks ago. But in the sense of trying to start the new year off the right way, I think it would be a good idea for as many of the higher-ups at the club to meet with as many of the Glory fans as possible over the course of the season to try and improve relationships and try and, I guess, get things off to a better start this year than the previous one at least.
Or just go on our podcast honestly.
Ross, come on, man. There's
I mean,
there's a spare seat.
Look, you can tell the FRG to piss off if you want, but you got to at least come
You
to
can tell me to leave as well by TikTok, but like, Ross, I really want to like you. And if I ever see you face to face, I'll give you a handshake and I'll say, hey, go on. I want to listen to you, what you want to do with the club.
Ross, I
just
love
don't know what you want, man.
I really want you to be Tony Soprano, man.
I want you to be Uncle Ross.
I really just want you to be that big balls Italian businessman that just bankrolls our club to glory.
Yeah.
But please,
you've just got to. I think, it was obviously like it was great to meet Ross and the guys, but it.
Oh, tell us again about how you met Ross.
No. I'm just gonna.
He's such a great guy.
Just wait. No, I said it to them. I just said you got to speak to other fans as well.
You said that to Ross Pelligra?
Or Stan more Stan, but it's more like you can speak to the fans. Make yourself available if you can. I know you're a busy dude, but
if Zizu season can do it, so can you.
Well, tell them your vision, and maybe fans might not be as self-deprecating at home games, especially. So
you don't want to see Will angry. I know what this man's like when he's angry. I shared a room with him at Unite round.
Yeah.
He gets quite aggressive.
Any other points?
No. I'm ready to end this.
Sack it and kick us out of your.
Look. All honesty, I'm going back and I'm watching clips of us under Popper to start the new year, right?
That's fair.
But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching episode 19 of the Glory Days podcast. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me who should I get on my Perth Glory player shirt.
Make it
Castro.
No, make it a non-Perth Glory player. Make it like the most random player you can think of.
Sigurdsson 10 on my
Castro.
Glory shirt, mate.
Weren't we chanting about Castro at the game?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, hopefully we start the new year off right with a win on Friday night against Western United. But we want to thank you all so much for your continuous support in 2024. And we're going to kick the new year off right in 2025.
With a win.
With more content.
No.
And we can promise you that there'll be so much more coming this year. So stick around for that. Thank you for subscribing.
Thanks, guys.
Already, make sure you do subscribe. With that, we'll leave you with that.
We'll leave you with that.
Shut the Shut up!